We'll try it again then. Okay, we're live, everybody, on a very wonderful day. I guess every day is a wonderful day, depending on how you view it. It's a great, so happy that as we progress. We're really looking forward to sharing with you. Sarah, who you're looking at, and Christopher, myself. We're just come down the last shower of rain. We've got lots to share and truth. Some of them the very hard way, maybe the hardest way, but aren't they sometimes the best things, you know? And a lot of time involved, and that's why they're one of the most valuable things that we as human beings appreciate so much, because of the enduring value of them. And that's what we want to pass on to you today, the things of our life, the things that have become to us because they work. Use in your own life, you can enjoy them and you can reap the benefits of them. So let me just give you a little bit of a heads up on how the day is going to run today, and then I'm going to introduce the three of us, Chris, Sarah, and myself. And the whole program for 90 minutes is being recorded. Every one of you will receive a link to that recording, and others who've registered but unable to attend on the day will. So we're going to have a Q&A at the end. So if you get questions, what I'd love you to do, we'd all love you to do, is just write your questions into the chat on your screen, and we'll see those questions. If at all possible, try and keep them as succinct and brief as you can, because we've got a lot of people joining us today, and so succinct, clear, brief questions will really help us come back at the end and address them. If you'd like them to be addressed by someone in particular, because we've all got our unique expertise and unique experiences, just put the initials of the person or the name of the person you'd like to address the question that you're putting forward. So without further ado, I would love to introduce, first of all, Sarah Wayne from Mindset Mastery. Sarah and myself have been associated for quite some time now, and I've come to appreciate her unique talents and abilities, and I know that after today's talk with her, you're going to do the same. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what's exciting you today, Sarah.
Hey, thanks, Darryl. Hi, everybody. It's nice to see all you guys here, and I'm just really looking forward to sharing some of my most powerful insights into what's helped me in my life make really powerful decisions, and what I've seen over the past decade with the hundreds and hundreds of people I've served making really powerful decisions in their life. So I've evolved in my career as a holistic nutritionist. I moved into doing more energy healing, began to get really frustrated with people not making the choices I knew that would really serve them. And so I began to really study the mind and behavior and belief systems, and how that truly is the core foundation for why people stay stuck and don't move forward in their life. So I'm going to share with you some little pebbles of wisdom and some practical exercises that you can take away today. And I hope you take away what is meant to serve you, and whatever does not resonate, leave that as well.
I love it. Thank you so much. Yes, as I often used to say in the past to people, and I still say occasionally, you know, eat the meat, spit out the bones. Or if you're a vegetarian, eat the flesh of the fruit and spit out the pips, you know, the bits that you don't like. I mean, some pips are really good for you, but some people don't like eating them. My wife loves grapes, so does my youngest daughter, but they both hate the pips. They always take the seeds out of the grape. Now, I know they're full of antioxidants and I chew them, but hey, we're not all the same, okay? Looking forward to your talk. Sarah, what's exciting you about today?
I'm alive. That's fantastic. The other thing is, it's a beautiful day here in Thailand. And I've got the opportunity to share 70 years worth of experience, particularly around something that's precious to me, which is making great decisions. We've called this webinar, decisions aren't separated from choices and other things, but when you make a decision, that's when you commit to doing it in the real world. And that's when you experience the consequences of making a decision in the real world. So this is, no matter how practical, sporty, spiritual, or whatever you are, the decision affects the physical world. And I'm going to talk how your mind decisions that work elegantly for you, and to draw upon decades of experience in doing that. So I'm looking forward to that.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to hearing it. And almost 5 years getting to know Christopher pretty well. And I've done a number of his programs and courses over those 5 years. And the technology that he has, I call him my professor. And he's certainly a great resource of helpful information. And of course, applying it in your life, well, that's your side of the coin. But he can certainly give you the what to do and even how to do it, but only you can do it. Well, my name's Darryl Reeves, and I've spent most of my 6 decades on the planet and a bit in the people development enterprise, and I just love helping people find things that work. I'm not so much of a theorist, and some of us are, and we need theorists because that's how we find out what works, by testing lots of theories. But I'll leave that to the scientists. I'm a pragmatist, not a scientist. So I'm much more interested in what you. I'm going to say it doesn't work for me, or I haven't been able to master it effectively. You better come back with a better way for me to do it. So that's the tone of the 3 of us today. And the order of speakers is going to be Sarah, Christopher, and then myself. So I'd like to introduce Sarah now, who's going to talk to us about mindset mastery. And I think the name is just amazing because it speaks volumes to me anyway. Mindset mastery. You know, we all go through life with a mind, and we need to master it so it doesn't master us. Sarah, go for it. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah. Did you want to say a little bit about inspiring mastery, Darryl, at all, about the 3 of us coming together, or do we want to?
I could. Now I can do that, but right now, inspiring mastery, just a thumbnail overview is essentially these 3 people that you're looking at on your screen or your phone, your tablet. And we have a desire and a passion and a vision to inspire and educate people on the planet that leave the place better than they found it and make a contribution. And our goal is to touch the lives in a meaningful and impactful way of 100 million people by 2026. Sounds a lot, because it is a lot, but we're not going to do it on our own. We're going to do it with help and support. And some of you on this call are going to find yourselves resonating with what we say and our mission and our vision, and you're going to want to become part of it. And you may become a speaker, you may become a contributor in some other way, marketing skills, some networks that you're involved with, all kinds of ways you can support. I won't put a limit on it at all because there isn't. Entirely up to you. But at the end of the talk, I will be inviting everybody to reach out to us and let us know not only how you felt about the day and what we said and did, but also how you might wish to engage with us going forward. So yeah, feel free to add to that, Sarah and Christopher.
That feels good. Thanks, Darryl.
Well, we can do that at any time. Okay, Sarah, you go for it, girl. It's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Yeah, well, welcome everybody. I'm just going to admit that the biggest challenge I'm going to have here is fitting all of this into 20 minutes. So I will do my best to really condense what is really a huge layer upon layer exploration into something really practical you can just implement in your life today. So just to give you guys a quick little backdrop into what brought me into the work as a mindset healer or a mindset mentor was that I myself was big time struggling and making decisions. And through tuning into the technologies and the tools that I share with my clients and share with the people I work with, I myself was able to make drastic changes in my health, in my life, in my relationships, and in how I experience the world. So I am really about doing the work that I do for myself to teach the others and looking at what actually is most beneficial for each person. So I know you all come from different backgrounds, different experiences, and when it comes to decision making, you're all making decisions in different ways, right? And what might be top of your mind for right now about what you have decisions to make around obviously is going to vary for everybody here. The techniques I'm going to teach are going to range from making decisions from basics, what foods will best serve me, what are the best foods for my body. My background as a nutritionist, that was a huge thing for me, is actually teaching intuitive nutrition and teaching people how to use their own body to discern how to eat better, to making huge life decisions, as in which state should I move to, or should I end this relationship, or what is my next career path, those types of big decisions. This type of awareness and process that I'm going to share with you can be applied to all of that, and you'll know where to start, okay? But in the very beginning, the first thing I always say to people is that you got to have a clear space to even take in a new information. So to even take in what I'm about to say to you, I'm going to invite you to just relax your body, take a few deep breaths with me. I'm going to go into just a little bit of breathing technique for resetting the mind and helping to clear any excess thoughts by breathing in for 5 seconds, holding it for 3, and breathing out for 7 seconds. So we're going to do this 3 times together. You guys ready? So breathing in through your nose, holding it for a few seconds, and then exhaling out your mouth. Breathing in through your nose, holding it at the top, and exhaling. One more time. And then exhaling fully and completely. That just helps to relax our nervous system. And no matter what you have going on, that's always the first place to start, is with the breath. In moments when I was in anxiety, overwhelm, and feeling completely unclear, I would always go back to breath as my saving grace in any decision making. So I invite you to, if anything, take that away. But I want to also talk to you a bit about mastery. And this concept of mastery is really looking at how we choose to live our lives. To me, mastery is living without fear and choosing to let love, awareness, be the driving force behind your thought, word, and action. So the path to making great decisions is actually quite simple, but it's about being conscious of the options that you have. And one of the things that really gets in people's way that I'm going to talk about is your mind versus your brain. So your distinction between this is super important because a lot of people operate from their intellect and their brain. And that brain is actually not where you want to make decisions from. So your brain, all it is, the intellectual side of you, is a powerful search engine that needs positive keywords to install empowering key references. I'll say that again. Your brain is a powerful search engine that needs positive keywords to install empowering key references. So it's up to you to program your brain. But most of us have been programmed by our conditioning of society, our family, whoever parented us, and what our environment has been. So we must remember that your brain is the translator. It's not the creator. So if you're looking to make decisions that create a new possibility for yourself, that create something greater than what you've been experiencing, you must begin to use your mind. I'll call it your higher mind. It's really about moving into the next highest perspective for yourself, is being more open. And there's a technology of emotions. And I teach a lot about how your emotions are this technology that is, we are here to master, not to stuff down or pretend that they aren't important, because that happens a lot. We hear, don't get too emotional, don't express yourself. And while there's some nuances there, the key thing to know is that your emotions, and this isn't always true for everybody. Actually, Christopher's going to touch on this. He's going to make the distinction for you guys. But from what I have gathered, your emotions are your guidance system to discern. And it may not always come across emotionally. It may come across as sensations in the body, how your heart feels, how your gut feels. So there is a response in the body, which is actually your connection to your higher self. And the body, the way I see it, as it's your physical vessel to interpret signals from your higher mind. So if you are shutting down your body, you are doing things that are self-destructive or that are not self-loving to yourself, you will actually unhinge yourself from that clear connection. I see this a lot with people who are on medications. There are certain prescription medications that actually make it very difficult for people to feel what's going on in their body. So you want to be mindful of what steps you need to take in your life to get more connected. And obviously, I don't have time to go into all that process today, but use your resources. Maybe this will be something we teach in another class, but intuition cannot be understated here. I will get into that just a little bit, but I just want to make sure you see that there's a difference between making a decision based on your intellect versus your higher self, your higher mind. Now, what's really important about this is the state of being. So I come from the perspective of I see everything as energy. Literally, I can see energy patterns around people. As a medical intuitive, something I've done for the past 6 or 7 years, I have been able to discern where people's root cause of their disease comes from based on seeing the energy pattern in their system. And this has been very helpful to actually break that pattern, because where you are right now, like if you're in an emotional state of anger or depression or being really shut down and closed off, and you make a decision from that energy space, what's going to happen is the law of resonance, which is a universal law, is going to kick in, and you will attract what you're sending out, right? You could say this is kind of basics with the law of attraction here, but that is what happens. The vibrational state you are in gets reverberated out, and that is what you begin to see in your life. So from my perspective as mindset mastery, is that you want to get your mind and yourself into a really higher vibrational state. And what I mean by that is a higher emotional state before you actually take action. So there are many ways to do this. Breathing is actually one, which is why I wanted to give you that technique. And there are different types of meditations, exercises, mantras, different things you can surround yourself that will help to do that. And everyone's unique. So how you do that is up to you, but you want to really allow yourself to be in a better state. So example being, I have a client whose relationship with her son was really strained. And whenever she would communicate with him from this frustrated, upset place, he would lash back at her. And that's sort of a typical response you see in relationships. When she cultivated a higher vibrational state, allowed herself to get into the place of, first of all, neutrality, feeling very neutral and open, she was then able to speak to him from a much less tense and dense energy space. And he actually was very open to receiving what she had to say. And their relationship repaired within a matter of a week. And they began to work together and actually have such better results in their life. So that is so essential. Let's see here. What else do I want to talk about? Yeah, so I mentioned emotional intelligence and how you want to be really mindful of that emotional state. The key is to release shame and fear from your fields. Shame and fear are what keep you attracting situations to have more fear-based responses too. And sometimes that can be really hard when you're in it, right? When you're in it, you just feel it, and it's very real. But you want to learn, first of all, if you cannot just release yourself of the fear, one of the things I suggest you do is you use the technology of wonder and innocence. And you can say this phrase to yourself: I do not know what the circumstance is or what it is for, and therefore I cannot judge. I don't know, and it is okay. So being in the not know, uncertainty can actually be a relief. And that's what you're looking for when you're in a really stressed, tightened, constricted place, is you want to just have relief from that. So that way you can begin to move into neutrality and more of a calm place, so you can be more connected to your higher mind and then make a decision, a discernment of what is actually in your best and highest good, right? So from a more contracted place, we might go for that food, that piece of pizza that we know is going to make our stomach hurt an hour later, versus relax and ask ourselves, what would be in my best and highest good? What is actually going to serve me? And you might get a really strong insight to eat something else and actually be more easily drawn to take that action because you're not feeling the constriction and the tightness. There's many other layers to this too, so I don't want to oversimplify it, because I get that for me, like my biggest challenge that I had to make choices around was the food I ate. I was eating a ton of sugar. Sugar was my drug of choice. I was very addicted to it, and it was creating cancer in my body, as well as digestive issues and many other challenges. And so I had to do healing around that. But the way I was able to actually step into healing is to get curious and admit I just didn't know. And when I did that, I was naturally guided to do certain modalities. For me, it happened to be acupuncture, seeing a holistic nutritionist. And then over time, it's led me to other modalities, things actually like human design, which Christopher teaches, that helped me to understand how I best make decisions. So you can see how getting yourself into the right state will lead you to the places that are going to serve you best. Doesn't mean you come up with all the answers and all the knowing yourself. You may get that from going out and doing things in the world and relating to people, but you will know because you are so grounded in your own connection to yourself, whether it's through breath, meditation, however you connect to yourself, when you are in that state, you will be more clear at knowing what to say yes to and what to say no to. Okay, I hope you guys are following me so far. Let's see, I know I've got a few more minutes left, so I think the last thing I want to really share with you here, let's see. Yeah, I want to make it known that I don't look down on assessing things with your intelligence. I think it is actually beneficial for you to do a cost analysis for your big decisions. You know, like if you're choosing between moving to 2 different locations and you want to make a list of the benefits and the, the cons and the pros, do that. Do those things that your intellectual mind wants you to do. But then when it comes to actually taking the action to make the decision, that's when you want to discern with your higher mind. And that comes from a feeling state of your heart and your gut. Your heart and your gut are the actual other brains in your body that connect you more closely to the higher mind. Your physical mind, your brain upstairs here, is just going to start running programs with you. It's going to keep you safe and keep you limited in your perception of even what's possible. So the heart is really what rules the mind. So that's kind of my caveat into mindset mastery, is that the heart is the master of the mind. And that is when you learn to master your heart, then you become master of your mind. And that journey is not for the faint at heart. It really requires some dedication. It requires you to be honest and authentic with yourself about what is really in your best and highest good and what you will no longer choose in your reality anymore. And I encourage you to step into that path. Maybe some of you have, and you're really seeing how it's time to make some big life choices. And you know that you are gearing up to look at your experience right now in a whole new perspective so that you can see the possibility beyond where you are. So I want to share with you a quote from actually one of the very first self-help mentors that I came across when I was starting my journey looking into how to create a better life for myself. And that's Jim Rohn. So Jim Rohn says, to solve any problem, here are 3 questions to ask yourself. First, what could I do? Second, what could I read? And third, who could I ask? I think those questions are really powerful to step back and open up, because it is with questions and inquiry that you begin to allow for more possibility. So remember, go back to that technology of wonder and innocence and being, I don't know, I just don't know. So I'm going to sit back and relax until I feel like I really do get that insight to go read that book, right? Go call that person, or go to this cafe, and who knows who you're going to meet in that experience, right? There's just a lot of things that unfold when you go from that intuitively guided place. And then last but not least, I really want to emphasize, with all that said, that no decision is wrong. And I truly mean that. You cannot make a wrong decision. And when I say that to people, they really feel the relief in that, and knowing that if you make a decision, it is simply just more information that's opening you up so that you can evaluate and then continue making that decision, or choose again and make a different decision. So let yourself off the hook. Make that choice, make that decision, evaluate. Is this really how I want to continue? Don't get so hung up in what it being a good or a bad choice. Just keep practicing, and remember, this is a practice to evolve and master over time. And I hope you enjoy the process. Life is meant to be joyful. It's meant to be peaceful. It's meant to be filled with excitement. So follow your highest excitement and joy, and it will always lead you to the best place for you, for uniquely what you are guided to be here for. And with that, I pass it back on over to Darryl. Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much, Sarah. That was really so many beneficial points there. I love the distinction between the brain and the higher mind. You know, we've got a multiplicity of people on this call, and we all come from our own unique traditions, cultures, rites, rituals, the way we do things, and our terminologies, you know, are going to be different. That's the nature of humanity. But, you know, someone who says higher mind someone else might think, you know, that's my heart, as Sarah said, you know, it's really, you know, from your heart. And someone else might think, well, that's my spirit, you know, but it's the inner you. It's the bit of you that's just not the external part, it's the internal part. I love it, Sarah. Thanks so much. Terrific stuff. Well, right now we're going to be talking or listening to Christopher, and we're going to mix it up, the session, a little bit for you today. So we're going to run this one where I kind of sort of interview Christopher a little bit and ask him a few leading questions, so that just to kind of create a different environment for us all, and to give you an experience that may be even more helpful for you. So here we go. Christopher, it's great to be talking about my design and how that helps me make better decisions. So relative to making decisions, better decisions, which is what we all want to do, make better decisions. What is my design?
It's a really practical question.
They're the only ones I have, sorry.
No, that's great. I love it. By the way, Sarah, just a very brief thing. Could you turn off your video, because we're finding there's a little bit of strain on the bandwidth, and if you turn off the video, it'll make it easier for us. Thank you. Okay, Darryl. Well, first thing is, let's have a look at your design. And let me... Okay, can you see that?
I can.
Now, some of you on the call would have seen this sort of chart before, and some of you wouldn't. But this happens to be a chart or a map of Darryl's unique design. Now, what I mean by the word design is it's a very intricate and practical map of how Darryl is designed to operate in the practical world. So it's how he's designed to operate, what he does, and how he can receive the support he needs to do it. Okay, now this happens to be Sarah's chart. Obviously, it's the same structure, but differently coloured. Here's my chart, same structure, but different arrangement. Freddie Mercury, Jeff Bezos, you can see they're all different. So coming back to Darryl, here's the first place to start from, because one of my greatest mentors in life said to me one day, and I never forgot it, the advanced work in anything is the basics done really well. And that is a key to mastery. And it's actually one of the most inspiring keys to mastery, because it means if I do the basics really well, elegantly, in a way that I enjoy and brings benefit to other people, that's when I'm mastering something. So I'm going to come back to this chart, which obviously is complex, and people have spent decades going into the intricacies and the bits, all the different numbers and everything you can see there. They've explored it in incredible technical detail. And I'm going to suggest step back and look at the obvious that isn't so obvious unless you step back. Now, when you look at Darryl's chart there, you'll see in the middle, the two things on the side happen to talk about two very important points in anybody's life. What was set up at birth, and the other one on the left, what was set up while you were in the womb so that you came out with a unique design, a unique way of operating. But in the middle, you'll see there are two really obvious things. There's coloured stuff and there's white stuff. The coloured stuff, whichever part of it is coloured in anything but white, that is a map of what Darryl is designed to do. His unique way of operating, what he brings to the table with anybody he's involved with. His wife, his child, myself as a friend, Sarah, you, a group that he's talking to when he writes a book. This is the way he's designed to operate. This is what he's designed to do. And I'll go into that in a moment. The white stuff.
Right. Sorry, Christopher. I was just going to say, we've often talked, you and me, about how it's kind of, because I've got an electrical background, and to me it just instantly looks like a wiring diagram of a machine, some sort of complex machine. And, I think that's another great way of considering it, isn't it? You've talked about that a fair bit, the various wiring connections and disconnections.
Yeah. Well, how you're wired up.
Yeah. Isn't that a phrase we use? We often say that. Well, how's he wired up,
Exactly. Look, you can be wired up to be an electric light or a computer.
Exactly. So that leads me to this question. The next question I want to ask you is, how does Christopher Power, knowing his personal design, help Christopher Power every day in practice?
Okay. Just before we go, I want to emphasize this is where you receive the support that you need. You're designed to make things happen and have other people work with you. Here's Christopher Power. I'm designed to work with people, to give them energy once they know what they really want to make happen. So the first thing it did, this open part, which is designed to help me receive what I need, the biggest temptation with that is to try and do it. So for me, I'm very tempted to try and make things happen. You can even sense it in the presentation. I'm trying to make the presentation happen, right? It's obvious. It's a tendency we all have. And you go, hey, let's work on this. I'd like this to happen, Christopher, and then I can put my energy into it. So as long as I'm ready to put my energy into something that is happening, that's going to manifest, then what this openness does is allow life, or as Sarah might say, your higher mind, or life is the simplest way, to bring to me things that are happening. This is how I attract. So what it does for me, the first thing it does is stop me putting energy into an area where if I just let it go, it would become a great asset because it would attract to me all the support I need and all the choices available for me to decide which one to put my energy into.
Right. So is what you're saying there, that it on the one hand, it kind of stops you from going down the wrong track and frustrating your energy, and on the other hand, it helps you recognize which track to go down and where to put your energy. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Exactly. Well, you use your design elegantly by opening up to where you can receive, where you can attract, and making sure that you're putting your energy into the things that you're designed to do.
Right. Yeah,
Right?
there's probably little point in volunteering to do someone's next brain surgery requirement if you've never been to med school.
Exactly.
If you're not talented with, if you've got shaky hands.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, how it helps me is it helps me by realizing I've got this extraordinary energy to put into other people's lives and projects.
Right.
Don't waste my time trying to make other things happen on my own, and therefore miss out on all the options I could have finding out what other people are doing. Now, in your case, Darryl, it's the reverse. Get clear on what you want, because you're very good at explaining to people stories that wake them up.
Right.
You know, that bring them into the real world practically. But you need people to work with. And this is the way you attract the right people to work with. By not working so hard yourself, you actually draw to you the people who will work with you, invest in your projects, you name it. And that is a massive distinction.
Oh, it really is. You know, look, I come from the corporate world, and I'm in the corporate world every day. And, you know, you've got the CEO, he's sort of, endorse the decisions, discuss the decisions, and agree with the CEO what needs to be done. And then you've got the business underneath that where the work is actually done. Now, everybody can't be CEO, everybody can't be on the board, and clearly everybody can't be, out there in the field, so to speak, doing the work either. So you've got to have, the leaders and the contributors, and it's a team effort, isn't it?
Hell yeah. Look, the thing about human design practically is it helps you really identify and then test in real life what you're designed to do most elegantly. So you can contribute your very best work or your very best contribution to other people's lives. And in the process, you feel the elegance and the beauty of doing what you're designed to do. It doesn't solve every problem, but it makes things so much more elegant.
Yeah. So tell us then, I get that. That's absolutely right. And elegance comes with ease. Can you tell us then the main ways that people, or the main types of ways people make decisions from this technology's perspective? I know there's a limited number, thankfully.
Well, yeah, there's about 7 or 8 different ways, but there are a top 3.
Right.
And when you look along, here's what's really interesting. The decision-making process doesn't come from up here in our brain and even in our mind, because we're responsible, and we also, right? That's the thing, when you make a decision, you actually, there are consequences, good and bad, think you help people or you don't help them. And so it's crucial that something that integrates both your brain, your nervous system, and your body in the real world makes that decision. And down along the bottom, you've got the top 3. And the first one, which 50% of the world do, it's through relating, and relating takes time, right? For instance, Darryl, in your chart, you make decisions over time through the process of relating to people. And therefore, if you do quick decisions, it doesn't serve you. And 50% of the world is like that. We're having to learn to really take our time, and with the situation or the person helps you develop emotional. And that's a whole topic in itself. But the bottom line is once you've decided and you're clear emotionally, there's no second guessing. Now, in my chart, the first one that's coloured of these three is what they call the sacral. This is my gut. And my gut decision-making happens in the moment. So I make the best decisions when I'm responding to something that's happening in the moment from my gut. And it comes to me as a feeling of like, it's not a thought. It doesn't even have to be a sound, but there's this sense in my gut that that's good for me. That works for me.
Instant attraction or repulsion.
Yeah. It's like, I'd like to put my energy into that. Right?
Yeah.
And that's in the moment. You've got to be living in the now for that to happen.
Yeah. See, that's interesting because I find I almost always want to react. Let me think about it. Let me sleep on it. I'll get back to you.
Yes.
You know? Don't rush me. Don't push me.
Exactly. That's you, and 50% of the world needs to take their time.
Yeah.
Now, in my case, you've probably got 20 or 30% of the world needs to make these decisions in the moment by being in the moment. And it also means we do our best work in the moment, in my case, and you manifest things much more effectively over time. Now, I know I'll move this along because we're time pressed. Now, here's Freddie Mercury. He doesn't have the emotional clarity way of deciding. He doesn't have the in the moment gut way of deciding. This is reacting. So you've got relating, responding, and this is reacting. And if you've ever seen the film on Freddie Mercury's life or any of his videos, he's not even in the moment. It's reacting like an animal that gets attacked. It's the quick and the dead. It's instant. And that sort of decision making takes a lot of, funnily enough, it's the most instinctive, natural way to make decisions because that's the way animals do. And yet, for human beings, it takes a lot to be able to trust that.
Yeah, need a lot of courage.
It takes a lot of courage to live that way, and people make a lot of mistakes when they're not brought up in a way as a child where that is respected and encouraged in them. Now, they're the top three: relating, responding in the moment, or reacting instantly. Then there are a few others that are only small percentages, and there's a very small percentage of people that don't make decisions from inside themselves in a defined and specific way.
Right.
It's called no inner authority, but what it really is an open receptivity to life guiding them to what's right for them. Now, a lot of people do that. I'll just be open to what life does for me. But very few people are actually designed to do it that way. Almost all of us are designed to be responsible.
It's good. I like it. So, okay. Well, look, obviously, I know how complex this topic is and how wonderful it can be in our lives when we get a grip on it. So here you're just kind of getting a tease up for it, I guess, in some ways, the listeners. But tell me, what does living my design guarantee me or guarantee anybody that's working on mastering their design and improving their, getting in sync with it? What are the expectations that they can reasonably have? And how does that play out? I mean, obviously it's a process. It's not something you master overnight.
Absolutely. It's going to guarantee you'll learn a lot, and you'll learn and in the real world. It won't be theoretical knowledge. You can study human design and learn a ton of knowledge, but you will learn a lot from your life in the real world. You'll learn how to live elegantly. And one of these four things is going to be guaranteed. You'll either experience a greater sense of peace within yourself, in your case, Darryl, or a greater sense of satisfaction, or a feeling that you are successful, or a sense of, I just love life. Now, everyone wants to do all four, but one of those four is specific to your design. When you're living your design, it's probably the one out of those four that's the gnarliest, the one that's most difficult to come to grips with. Like for me, being satisfied, but when I am, I'm living my design. When you're at peace, you're living your design. So those are the fundamentals. Again, it's the advanced work in anything, is getting the basics right. Are you at peace? Are you satisfied? Do you feel successful? You're not just talking yourself into it. You feel it and see the beauty in life. Now, that's guaranteed if you embrace your design, underlined, practical through real life experience over time. That's why the work that I do, I work with people over time.
Yeah, it's good. Well, look, I'd love to, just give a shout out and a plug for spending time with Christopher and investing in yourself, because it's such, we're all self-interested. If we're decent people, we're interested in others as well. But the better we are, the better we can help other people. It's right, isn't it, Christopher?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. Invest in yourself is going to benefit other people. And one thing you've encouraged me to do is really point out the benefits. And that's something I can do much more accurately and specifically on a one-on-one basis, and then putting teams together, but making sure that each member of the team brings their best to the table.
Yeah, it's great. Well, I love too how, the authority that you feel when you understand, or even beyond understand, you just know. It's not a matter of intellectualizing, it's a matter of knowing. As Sarah said before, it comes out of the heart, out of the very core of our being. Like the heart of a tree. I'm not talking about the blood pump, the heart, the core of the matter, the core of us. When our decisions come out of that core, and when we come from our core being, whether it's understanding our design, the mechanical makeup, as you so well expressed today, or Sarah's talking about the mindset mastery, but it's coming out of the core of our being. I think that's where we start to really hum along like a beautifully tuned engine, or like a sewing machine, as my mother said. Oh, it works like a sewing machine. I love it. Well, thank you. Is there anything you'd like to say to wrap up? Or?
No, just one thing, Darryl.
Yeah.
When people start explaining back to me their understanding of what I've been sharing with them better than I can explain it, I know I've done my job. Right? That's the goal of the whole thing. So well done.
Thank you. Well, I've certainly learned a lot, and appreciate the input I've received from you, and in learning about myself. And it's great, and it kind of neatly segues into my topic and talk, which I'm going to get onto now. I want to thank you very much, Christopher, for that. I just want to say that in life, people we meet are the single greatest experience we have most of the time. To step up and be our best, to be better than we've been, to experience more than we've had, and to fulfill our destiny, really. And since this talk today is about destiny and how decisions determine and decide the destiny that we have, I think it's just a wonderful thing to realize that the people we meet are such a great part of our future. You know, we all want a better future. I don't think anybody here on this call and anybody I've ever met wants a horrible future. We want a better future. And that's because it's in our nature to be that way. The human species has moved along, and humanity's moved along constantly wanting to improve their life. And that's why we have jet travel today, and washing machines, and flush toilets and so on. Well, some of us do anyway. Funnily enough, I was just looking at a program last night, Bill Gates talking about how 4 billion people on the planet don't have decent sanitation, and yet in the West, we take it for granted, but there's a lot of people that don't. So the people we meet matter to us, and I want to talk today about virtues particularly, and how that leads to contentment in our life, because virtue is a bit of an old-fashioned word. If you want to substitute it with a more modern word, you could use the word values. You know, we hear a lot about values, you know, our value system, our value proposition, blah, blah, blah. I still kind of like the old-fashioned word. Maybe I am old-fashioned, but I like virtues because it kind of narrows it down a little bit for me. And just before I get into it, you know, I was born in a very small town, a tiny little town. A little country town. I sometimes like to jokingly say it was so small, even the massage parlor was self-service. But, you know, there's something that you learn when you understand small town people, country people, people that, you know, as neighbors might live miles and miles away, not just next door or in the condo below or above. There's something you learn about them, and that is that their values, when they talk about their values, they're not talking about the dollar savings they made on the motor car they just bought. They're talking about something far more internal. And that's what I want to talk about right now. So I want to say and ask the question and answer it as well. What's the big deal about virtue, or what's the big deal about my values? Why is that so important? And I was just thinking, as Sarah was talking earlier today about, you know, the traditions of people. It's the traditions that define our culture. I live in an Asian culture, and they have different traditions to what I grew up with in New Zealand, which was essentially a British-based culture. It's a colony of Britain. And so culturally, I am different to the culture I'm living in because my traditions are different. My body's not that much different. It's a slightly different color, and, you know, my nose isn't quite the same shape, and blah, blah, blah. But essentially, it needs the same things. But my culture and my experience and the way I live my life is determined by my traditions. And traditions, as I look around the world today in 2019, I see kind of a rebellion against some of the culture and the traditions that have brought us to this point. And some of that's good. We need to constantly investigate our traditions and ask, are these the best traditions for today, for the moment? Are they serving us? I mean, we might have had the tradition of hunting and so on, and now we don't. We just go to the shop and we buy our food at the supermarket, largely, generally speaking. But there is an incredible value. There is a really big deal about our traditions and our values, internally speaking. And I'm going to talk about just one, maybe I might get to two today, about why our virtues are such a big deal. And as a guy who spent the first few years of his life in a small town and then moved to a big town, so, you know, and ever since I'm much more of a big town guy than a small town guy, but I've had a lot to do with small town people. And even in my teenage years, for 4 or 5 of my years, and in high school and my early work days, I lived in a small town. And so I understand small town people and thinking. And relationships are absolutely vital in a small town situation. My wife, she grew up in a very, very small town, in a village. She was born in a rice paddy. After she was born, she was put on the back of a cart with a bullock, and her dad and mum, with the nursing, her dad delivered her, and then they took her to the grandparents' place, and the mum and the baby were nursed there by the grandparents. I mean, that's a tradition that you and I on this call probably can't relate to. That's a culture that, millions of people in the country I live in know all about. But we don't. So we've got different values. And I can tell you now that the values of this country that I live in are very, very strong. And when it comes to relationships, and their word is their bond. When they say something, they don't need to write and sign a contract. They don't even need to shake hands. They just need to say it, and the other person believes it, and it's done. And let me tell you, if you break that tradition with these people, then they're not going to like it. Whereas in the West, we make appointments. I'll call you tomorrow. I'll be there at 5. Oh, don't turn up at 5, or don't call at 5. Oh, sorry, I got busy. Something came up. Sorry. And you're lucky if you even get a call back and an apology. I'm in business. This happens to me every single day. And it's happening more and more and more right now. It's not a good thing. It's a terrible thing. It needs to not happen. Let me just get rid of something. Someone's trying to call in on my call. So our traditions and our values kind of relate together. Our values sink in with our traditions. And what's important in life, when we want to make progress as people, and we want to step our life up, and we want to experience more of something, whatever it is, you may want a better relationship. You may want more money. You may want to go into business. You may want to get out of business. You may want whatever it is you want. We're all cybernetic creatures wanting to move forward in our lives and get somewhere that we're not. That's the nature of human beings. We all want to be somewhere that we're not. I know there's a great saying out there, it's been around for a long time, just live in the moment, and all that sort of stuff. But living in the moment means you're looking to the future. And if you're not looking to the future, then what are you really doing? Why are you even on this call? Why are you listening to Sarah? Why are you listening to Darryl? Why are you listening to Christopher? If all your life's about is living in the moment. Living in the moment is a very important idea, and there's a truism and a truth to it, but nobody can stay in the moment alone. As Christopher clearly pointed out, our designs are not all the same. Some of us are instinctive, some of us are sort of gut feeling, some of us are emotionally wired up. There's all kinds of different wiring setups for human beings, and we've got to come to grips with who we are so that we can sync our values and live our virtues and our values in a way that works for us as individuals and works for the community and the people we want to work with. If my values don't work for you, you're not going to want to work with me for very long. Even though my values are different to yours and yours are different to mine, we've got to find the ways where we can find the common ground. Now, there's always a rub when we're looking for the common ground. Have you noticed that? and a bit of what I call it, sandpaper fellowship. You've got to have a bit of sandpaper fellowship with people that you want to get on with until you find smooth down the rough edges, find the bits where you fit nicely, and then you can move forward in a collaborative manner and do things together. Now, when it comes to virtues, if I'm going to talk about one, I'm going to talk about truth, the virtue of truth. And I don't want to get into a great debate and discussion about what is truth. What I mean by truth in this conversation is the opposite of a lie. When somebody asks you something and you tell them what you know to be a lie, that's what I'm talking about, versus telling what you know to be the truth. What you know in your heart and mind to be the truth about the matter. Can you do this or can't you? Do you have the goods or don't you? Are you going to settle with me on this commercial deal on the, the 14th of the month or not? Are you going to show up or not? That's what I'm talking about, truth. So truth is the basis of relationships. You don't need me to tell you, but let me remind you that if you get caught by people you're in relationship with lying to them, the relationship gets strained. And if you consistently get caught consistently lying to them, there's a high chance, high probability the relationship will become broken. Now, I've got a 7-year-old child, and if you're a parent, you know that children lie. They learn to tell the truth. They're not born naturally to tell the truth. I've got 3 children. None of them naturally always told the truth. It depended on what they were thinking at the moment and how they were gauging the situation, and they learned to tell the truth. But in learning to tell the truth, and let me tell you, I helped them profoundly to learn to tell the truth, because telling a lie when I found out was very unprofitable for them. And I made sure they understood that in various different ways. But now, especially my 2 older children, and we all lie even as adults, let's be sure about that. If you tell me on this call you never lied, already you've just lied right there. We all lie sometimes. Why do we lie? Well, we lie because we're afraid. We lie because we just don't want to offend the other person. We want them to feel better, and we think, is this outfit good for me? Yeah, it looks great, fantastic. And when we think actually it looks like crap. But we lie all the time. But what we need to be doing to bond in our relationships and build stronger relationships and thereby build a stronger future for all of humanity is learn to lie less, is commit to the notion of lying less. Make a decision. I'm going to be more and more truthful, but in the process, I'm going to find ways to tell the truth graciously. I'm going to find ways to tell the truth lovingly and compassionately. I'm going to pick my time. Listen, let's talk about that later. I've some things I want to share with you about that. And then think about it if you need to, and learn to be a little bit more sophisticated. There's some people that just want to put their hands on their hips and put their chin out and say, well, I just tell it the way it is. Well, interesting. How's that work for you? I just tell the truth. I've heard these people, you've heard them, we've all heard them. I just call it the way I see it. How's that working for you? Maybe not always so good. Maybe it's time to learn a little sophistication. Maybe it's time to learn a little elegance, is a lovely word Christopher used earlier in the day. Maybe it's time to master your mindset a little bit and just kind of learn some new practices and some new skills and upgrade a little bit to be able to express what you need to express in a way that is going to move you both forward. Now, this is truth telling with elegance. If you stop telling the truth, you start getting the outcomes you don't really want in life. There's a lot of people that aren't experiencing what they want in life because their core being is not aligned in the tradition and the culture, the personal culture and ownership of truthfulness. We see it in the world today with, lots and lots of people in the world, and businesses are breaking down because of, lack of truthfulness, essentially. All of our traditions as human beings going by
have led us to this point where we understand that the progress we made is based on the trusts that we've built. In business, you hear things like, well, I'm going to give you a deposit for this purchase. That deposit is an act of good faith. It's actually an act of
confirmation of your truthfulness when you sign the contract. So you sign the contract, you pay a deposit, because in good faith, you're committing to a truth that you both hold as valuable. And we make contracts all the time with each other, not always signing on the line, not always paying a deposit. Sometimes it's just saying, I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to do that for you. I'll be there. You can count on me. When you need support, call me. I'll help. You know, these are contracts. These are what are done in good faith if they're done correctly. And these are the things that build relationships. And it's in building relationships that we build strength.
Darryl, your volume.
I'm sorry?
Your volume.
What about it?
It's gone down.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know how it's gone down. I don't know what to do about that. Can you hear me fine just at the moment or not?
We can hear you. Yeah, okay. Other people said they can hear you fine, so no problem. Sorry.
Okay. Might be your end. Yeah. So we're constantly making contracts in life all the time, and they're based, hopefully, in truth. And if we want, you know, desirable outcomes in our life, we have to commit to certain virtues in our life, because that's the basis upon which our society is built. Unless you want to go and live in a cave, be a hermit, and live all by yourself and eat berries and hunt for whatever it is you enjoy. And let me tell you, that's okay. Some people probably better doing that. Better for them and better for everyone else. But that's not most of the people in the world that you meet and I meet and that we know. They're a tiny, tiny minority. So to get along in life and to progress and make better decisions in our life, we need to be assured that the truth that we hold and the words, which comes down to the words that we speak and the actions that we take, the way we live our life in action or in deed, and the way we live our life in what we say is so crucial, because that's what's building our future. And, you know, when I was growing up in the 60s as a youngster, you know, the book that was coming out that was influencing lots of baby, you know, post-war parents was How to, you know, Raise Kids by Dr. Spock at the time. And his philosophy was just let kids be themselves, let them do what they want. And it was an unrestricted, almost very minimal, if any, at times, guidelines for children. Now, anybody that's had kids knows where that goes. And it goes to having, you know, kids that really feel unsafe because they don't know what the boundaries are. Kids that will continue to lie because they've never been corrected and never told that that doesn't work and that's not good. And so we've got to, and kids that just end up expecting things by sort of the crippling values and virtues of I deserve it. It's my right. And you're seeing it play out in the world today. And one of the passions I've personally got is to reinstitute some wholesome, livable, workable, future-preserving values of integrity and virtue into the world. And that's what's really driving me, in case you're not feeling my passion today. And I'm joking, because I'm sure you are. I'm a passionate person, and I'm here to wake people up. I'm here to stir the pot, so to speak, to be the vinegar on the bicarb and make you froth and fume. And I've made plenty of people froth and fume, but with a very deliberate intent of making them think and get a wake up. It's not time to be careless. It's not time to just cruise along. It's time to be deliberate. It's time to look within yourself on whatever and any level that's important and that resonates with you, and sort yourself out. Come to grips with who you are. Understand your design. Understand your mindset. Master it. Master your design. Master your values. Master your virtues. Hey, not as some kind of, you know, goody two-shoes, not some kind of holier than thou religious nut job, some kind of extremist, but somebody who's got values that they stand for. Somebody told me many years ago, and I've never forgotten it, Darryl, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And I think there's some truth in that. But we've got to stand for something. We've got to stand just for some really basic things like telling the truth, like pulling your weight, doing your share, taking some responsibility for your actions. Responsibility, as Christopher loves to say, is so important, because without responsibility, it leads to tyranny. Now, I'm not talking about being over responsible and burdened down with responsibility. So, you know, you become the sad sack in the corner that, you know, looks happy when he's, you know, looks like a guy sucking on lemon juice. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a joyful life of living joyfully and happily and carrying and shouldering your share of the burden and loving it and sacrificing where necessary. So important. So I've learned that, you know, it's not what I deserve that matters. Others have paid a price for me to be here today. My parents paid a big price in raising me. For years and years and years, I was a dependent, just like you were, on somebody else's gratitude and somebody else's kindness and love towards me. And one of the great virtues I think that we don't see enough of today is gratitude. And as the great motivational speaker Zig Ziglar said years ago, and I've never forgotten it, it's your attitude, not your aptitude, that determines your altitude. How high you're going to fly in life is determined by what your values are within yourself. And attitudes or virtues, to a large extent, are habits of the mind. They're patterns of thinking. And as you spend time with Sarah and or Christopher and with myself as well, you'll learn that there's not self-behavior. There's that part of you, of all of us, that wants to raise its ugly head and just please itself. And there's that part of us that knows within ourselves what is true, what is right, what is noble, what is honest, what is good for everybody. And, you know, we're all endowed with these seeds of greatness. This design that we were born with is a wonderful design. It's unique. You're a one-off, and you're here to make a contribution. You're here to shoulder some burden. You're here to receive blessings. You're here to receive encouragement and support. And every one of us is here to work together for the good of humanity and make a positive difference. And so, you know, I want to draw this to a close and open up for a Q&A for a few minutes. But essentially, in closing, I want to say that we're looking to work with key people in a pilot program, people that resonate with our vision, resonate with our values, and resonate with our mission. 100 million people impacted by the end of 2026. And our next step is that initially we'd like to welcome you to express an interest with us personally in working with us. And we want to work with you on what you need personally, so that together we can collectively achieve a lot more. And we're going to send you out an email after this program and just follow up and thank you for being with us and give you an opportunity to respond to that email and let us know that this is the kind of value, these are the kind of ideas, these are the kind of thoughts, attitudes, dispositions, mindset, and understandings that you want to be a part of and further throughout the world going through the next 6 years, because we're committed in 6 years to impacting 100 million people. And we're inviting you to join with us. Helen Keller said, alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much. So I'd like to maybe just at this moment hand it to Sarah, who can just manage our Q&A session. And thank you very much for your time today. I'm just been delighted to share what's important to me and close to my heart. And we're looking forward to working with you when the moment's right. Thanks, Sarah. Appreciate your guiding us through perhaps some Q&As if there's some stuff there.
Yeah, thank you, Darryl. That was incredible, and I agree wholeheartedly. So I just want to let you guys know that if you want to share anything now, if you want us to talk about anything that was mentioned on the call, or if something's coming up that you just want to type in the chat, go ahead. and feel free to leave a comment or a question there. And if something does come up for you afterwards, after we close down this call, you can also send us an email to inspiringmastery@gmail.com, which you can also just respond to the emails that you've been getting. And we will keep that in mind. We want to keep this conversation going. So this doesn't end here. This is just the beginning. All right. Yeah, I don't see any questions. I just see some comments. Yeah, so thank you guys for being here. And let's see. Sister friend Mary says, I am thinking. So we might have a question coming in.
It's all right, no problem. Yeah, look, I want to thank you all too. You're a terrific group of people, and we're just looking to help the world, help you personally. If we help the individual, we help the community, because the community is connected. The individual is connected into the community.
Well, I will assume that you guys are complete and we don't have any questions. Feels like we've touched on what we needed to, and you took away what was in your best and highest good today. I hope you guys really enjoyed this, as I know I did.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Christopher. Just loved everybody's contribution. It was fantastic.
Hold on, Darryl. We do have a question come in from a sister friend Marie saying, when you find the world is not cooperating, what is the glue?
Yeah, that's a great question. When the world's not, maybe we'll all have a tilt at that, but my contribution to it is, when the world's not cooperating, you be the message and the example. And because what I've learned, Marie, is that truth is far more attractive when it's actually lived out with grace and elegance. So as Christopher said before about design and mastering your design with elegance, Sarah pointed out at the beginning, when we master our mindset, we give our mind a position that this is the way we're going to live our lives, then we become like a lighthouse, and we become, I think it was Christ or one of the great early religious leaders that said, let your light shine. And I think there's a truism in there, when we are the message, when we're living the life, it's one thing to talk about how good generosity is, but if you're not generous, it's just bullshit. It's one thing to talk about being compassionate, but if you haven't got the time of day to stop and help people, it's BS. It's not real. So we've got to be the message, and that's what we're about. We're about helping you individually to be the message that you're designed to be. Because when you show up as you're designed to be, you're attractive. And not only that, you are. Look, I know I'm attractive. I'm not talking about physical appearance and all the rest of that. I know there's something about me, and now I don't attract everybody. In fact, I repulse some people. Believe me, I know that too, and I'm really not worried about it. I'm interested in attracting the people that are attracted to me, and I know they're out there. All I've got to do is shine, and there are people that are waiting in the wings, so to speak, to be attracted to you. And when you show up better and better and better version of who you are designed to be, you'll attract more and more people in your world. That's how I think the answer to that question is. I don't know what you think, Sarah, Christopher.
Yeah, I'll amplify what Darryl's saying about letting your light shine, letting the truth of who you are become more of an expression. But I will also say that there's two things that come up. And one is the experience of seeing what you do not prefer and resisting it. So the vibration of resistance actually creates more of a persistence. So the things you see, it's not to say you condone them or approve of them, but when you actually put an energy of resisting it and a judgment towards it, you build a stronger relationship with it. So how you move through that is to actually come to terms with where are you doing that within yourself so that you can release that experience within you? So if you are seeing, somebody attacking somebody else, where are you attacking yourself? When you see, somebody being dishonest, where are you being dishonest with yourself? And that is such a critical component to making any changes in the world you see, is by going within, because it's not just some philosophy. This is actually how the universe gets created, is by the vibrational frequencies that you are experiencing within. So what you see outside of you that you do not approve of, it's a direct reflection for you to begin to do the work within. So the more you come to peace and satisfaction and joy within yourself, the easier it will be for you to see that in the world around you. You won't see things of destruction and war. They won't be as, what's the word I'm looking for? So in your face, they won't be things you come across. You'll just begin to notice how things lighten up in your world when you lighten up with inside. So I'll leave it at that. If anyone else wants to comment and share any more about that.
I guess I'm anyone else. When the world is not cooperating, honestly, I don't know the answer to that, because each time the world doesn't cooperate and then I change within myself, I either discover where I was resisting, or it seems like the world starts cooperating.
Finally, the world gets it together.
So the glue is finding out where you need to change so the world can serve you. That's the best way I can put it. There's that old saying, when when you're pointing your finger at someone, remember there's always three pointing back at you. So I see this world as being an extraordinarily beautiful gift. But, if a hurricane comes and you stay in your house and you happen to live in some of the places hit recently, well, your responsibility. It's like when the wind's blowing really hard, find a safe place for yourself, learn the lessons, and then take the opportunity to rebuild a brand new life. Yeah. So you've got the power. That's the one thing we don't really realise, is how much power we have. And, it was so blatantly important in my life that I chose a surname to remind me. You've got the power. It's about time you started to discover how to use it responsibly so that you have the freedom to bring powerful change into the world.
Love it.
So you're the glue. You're the person that makes your life stick and happen. So look at yourself. That's what I do. And you either discover it changes like magic because you did, or you learn something that enables you to live a more powerful and meaningful life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how the world changes when after we've changed. I love it. Great question. Thank you for asking. I think that's pretty much all the questions, isn't it, for now, Sarah?
There's another comment. Oh, yeah.
Reflection from a sister friend Marie. She's just saying that she loved what we're saying. But I'm wondering how to get people who are afraid of the system or the world to relax enough to know that the world is a mirror of the inner core beliefs or behavior tendencies. You being the example, just you living your life and letting go of trying to fix others and making others change. I think that is where we get into insanity, is thinking we can change others. Simply leading by example. That's how children learn. Right.
I love what she said right at the end. Can you three write a children's story that explains this to adults in an easy to understand way, that you've got the power? Trust me, every adult, their biggest lesson, at least from my perspective, is to learn to keep it simple and get right to the core, like Darryl did so beautifully with his explanation of virtues and truth and that. It was so simple. I was enchanted by it. It was amazing, Darryl. That's what comes with age. You know, wisdom and the ability to get
it comes with having children too on some levels, or at least relating to children, because children, you know, we sometimes think God gives us children so that we can teach them, but I think it's the reverse. I think God gives us children so they can teach us. You know, I've learned more about life from being, you know, involved with children. I'm not just talking about my own, but I've worked with children a lot. I've learned more about life from children on some levels than on many other levels. So it's a great challenge that you've laid down, writing a children's story, and I'm certainly going to muse on that for a bit and just let it, you know, gel with me, see how it rolls. Great idea, love it.
I agree. I think it's a great idea. Thanks, Marie. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. Wow, it's been wonderful, and we're 90 minutes up, so we're pretty close to on time. So I'd like to thank you all again Thank you all once again, and we'll be sending out the link in the next day or so, and giving you an opportunity to respond back. And of course, the people that weren't able to join us for the program on the day, some 50 odd people I think were subscribed to join, so they'll all be getting the video, and you can feel free to share it if you would like. It's not a problem at all. Thank you so much, and look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
I'll see you. Bye.